The Philadelphia Eagles bring back a very familiar face, a person I don't think a lot of people thought they would even have consideration of bringing back. Derek Barnett, the penalty king himself, is back in Eagles green for a 2-year deal. And I know a lot of Eagles fans are very excited about this, right? So we're going to talk about it.
You want Philly?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Joe Castro, aka Philly Fresco, and it's Philly the podcast. So today I want to talk about Derek Barnett coming back to the Philadelphia Eagles on a 2-year deal. Free agency is getting crazy now. Free agency is getting wild. But before we get into that, be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, join the family. We are on the road to 4K. We would love for you guys to join that ride. So let's hop right into it, man. Derek Barnett, the man of many. I feel like his reputation at this point kind of precedes him. Now, I'm going to talk about him as an Eagles fan, and I'm going to talk about him as just a person that watches football and trying to piece this together as to why they were into re-signing him. Now, as an Eagles fan, he committed more penalties than he has sacks, right? In his career already, I believe it's like 28 to like 21 or something like that. Has more penalties than he has sacks. So it's frustrating when you see him out there. It's frustrating when you realize he was a number 15, I believe, pick. And we just haven't gotten what we expected to get out of him. Obviously, the Reggie White comparisons were way overblown. Even, he was never going to be Reggie White. But him breaking that sack record in college, him coming into the NFL with that kind of pedigree, we thought that he was going to be something, I don't want to say major. I didn't think he was going to be, the best player to ever play. But we thought we were getting something comparable to Myles Garrett, and it just wasn't even close. Just not even close. I mean, Derek Barnett, he gives us good snaps. I will say that. He's able to pressure the quarterback. He's not a defensive end that really finishes many of those plays. Obviously, low numbers when it comes to sacks. I think his highest is like 6.5 in 1 year. But he is able to get to the quarterback. He is able to put pressures on the quarterback. He has like 80 quarterback pressures in his career, which is very good. That's very good. The Eagles are a team that is built off of their pass rush. So a lot of teams do things to try and combat that. So a lot of teams try to, get the ball out quick, try to, kind of start with their run game to throw our defensive line off balance. So all that kind of goes into the reasoning why our defensive line doesn't maybe produce as many sacks as other teams. You look at, Brandon Graham. Brandon Graham's another one that has a high pressure rate, but not necessarily, I don't think he's ever reached over 10 sacks in his career. So it's kind of the same thing. I think the thing that really kills it with Derek Barnett is the penalties, is the mental mistakes, right? Where we see all these mental mistakes and they're at the worst times possible. They really are. They're really at the worst times possible. So I really do feel like as Eagles fans, we only kind of look at that one part of it and kind of just poo-poo the rest of it because, and this is where I'm going to look at it as just a fan of football trying to figure out this move, right? If you look at him, he's still a very young player, still very young. He has, started in this league. He has produced as a starter. He's had some good years. He's had some very, very big plays in this Eagles team. Obviously, you can go back to the 2017 Super Bowl where he picked up that fumble, and I think he had a touchdown in that year as well in one of those games. So, he's made big plays. He's shown the propensity to get to the quarterback, which is very important in the NFL. And pass rushers are a premium position. They don't just grow on trees, right? And something that Jimmy Kempski said that I think is a very good point, a very, very good point, is with the David Ojabo injury, does this make it a little bit harder for one of those premier defensive ends to fall to us, right? We were thinking maybe a Ojabo, maybe a Trayvon Walker, maybe a Jermaine Johnson. But all those guys, outside of David Ojabo, all their stock probably rises now because of the David Ojabo injury. So is there going to be a defensive end or a pass rusher at that number 15, 16, or 19 spot that the Eagles feel even comfortable with and confident enough to pull that trigger at that high of a pick? So that kind of plays into it as well. And then you look at this defensive line. We are getting older. There's no secret about that. Without Derek Barnett, you're looking at Josh Sweat as your youngest guy, and Hassan Reddick isn't old. He's 27, right? So he can still grow with your team, but 30's right around the corner for him. Brandon Graham, obviously no spring chicken. Fletcher Cox, it's looking more and more like this might be his last year, at the very least in Philadelphia. So we had to get better on that defensive line. We have to get younger on that defensive line. And while Derek Barnett has not been exactly what we wanted to, we have to separate the pick from the player, right? And I say this all the time. I want to see the numbers on that contract. I want to make sure we're not overpaying him, but you have to separate the player from the contracts. From the pick. Just because he was the number 15 pick, a first round pick, doesn't necessarily mean that his second contract is going to depict that. His second contract, which he just got, is going to depict his play. Simple as that. Simple and plain. So I want to see these numbers. As long as we didn't overpay, this is a decent depth move. If we're going into the season next year with Derek Barnett, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, Hassan Reddick, that's a decent 4-man rotation that I think can get us some production. And then obviously, you're adding the defensive, interior guys. You got Taron Jackson that played a little bit better towards the end of the year. You got Milton Williams that was splitting outside a lot. Maybe he goes a little bit more outside. Then this draft, I think that this draft kind of opens up now for a Devontae Wyatt, maybe a Jordan Davis. You can go ahead and get Fletcher Cox's replacement for the future and not really have to worry about it. And if David Ojabo falls to the second, this becomes now the perfect situation for him. He comes into a team where he doesn't really have to start year one. Well, obviously he probably wouldn't be able to, but he doesn't have to start year one. He can sit behind some veterans, some guys that have played in the league for a while, and just learn. And if next year we have a rotation of Josh Sweat, David Ojabo, and Hassan Reddick, and enter whoever else is, if Taron Jackson makes a name for himself, or if there's somebody else in the fold, then at least we have some very good guys. I think that, look, Derek Barnett, not the sexiest pick, not the player that we all wanted, probably. I wouldn't sit here and say there's no way in the world that I wanted them to re-sign Derek Barnett. It was a little frustrating. I was hoping to get better, but if you can't get better, at least take that sideways step, which I think that they did. Like, if we didn't have Derek Barnett, then who? Do you think that Taron Jackson was ready to, step into that role? Do you think Milton Williams was ready to step into that role? Are there guys in this draft? I do think second round, third round, you can still get some very good defensive ends. I just don't know if they were to the level of a Derek Barnett, and that might sound weird to say, but is Kingsley and Enigbari a guy that's looking at the second round? Is he going to come in and make 6 sacks? Is he going to come in right away and be able to play 60% of snaps? Because we got to be honest, that's what Derek Barnett was doing. So I'm not going to sit here and jump up and down for joy that we, re-signed Derek Barnett. I'm definitely not making a banner saying welcome home, Derek, but it's not that big of a deal. I really don't think it's the worst deal in the world. I know a lot of people are upset. People are, not wanting to see that. But we have to think of it from a franchise perspective. And from that perspective, this was probably your best option right now. You look at this draft, and like I said, with David Ajabo's injury, it gets a little bit less likely that you're going to be able to get one of those top guys. And you have to put yourself in a position to at least field a team at that position. And realistically, I just don't see any of these guys that we were mentioning, Taron Jackson or Milton Williams. I don't see them being ready to really step in there and play 50-60% of the snaps. We like to run a rotation, so I think at the very, very, very worst, he is a good rotational piece. Look, let me know what you guys think of Derek Barnett. Like I said, I know this is not the sexiest of picks. This is not the most glamorous of picks, but it fills a need, it fills a hole, and hopefully he's an Eagle now, so hopefully we gotta hope for the best, right? Hopefully he can get better. Hopefully this offseason he can clear his head, he can kind of get out of that mental fog, because I feel like if he removes those mental mistakes, he's a very, very solid player, very solid player. But he also has to kind of work on some more pass rush moves and stuff like that. But if at worst, just remove the mental mistakes, and I think we got something here. But you guys let me know what you're thinking about DB. I know you guys are going to be mad. I know you guys are going to be mad. But it is what it is. Y'all know what it is, man. It's Fly Eagles Fly, and we are out here. Peace!
Everywhere, this is for
Yeah.
you.
Fly was flying on the team. Touchdown, touchdown. Time to get Jalen this ring. You don't really want to start a thing. This a Bird Gang Nation, baby. It's a Philly thing. Hater, and you looking like you type trash. I'm just here calling with Philly the podcast. And we can call a man dog or watch Miles score off the handoff. Rest of the division, your man soft. Jackson like Sean, hunting like Randolph. Season head, early time to do him in. Your boy Philly Fresco. Thanks for tuning in.